but we actually get to develop the corrections for the audit findings that we find as well. So I get to be on both sides. I get to see what maybe the issues are, but then I also get to help operations correct the issues, which I don't know. I'm weird. I love it all.
Welcome to episode 9 of the Food Grads Podcast, the podcast where we explore the fascinating career journeys of professionals who work in the food, beverage, and hospitality industries. I'm your host, Veronica Hislop, a molecular science graduate student and career partner with Food Grads. This week on the podcast, I have my first ever podcast guest who works in the cannabis space, Aylene Peter, the QA RA liaison at the Canopy Growth Corporation. Canopy Growth Corporation is a cannabis company based in Smith Falls, Ontario. They have a huge brand portfolio with products that include both recreational and medicinal marijuana products. In this episode, Aylene teaches me about the cannabis industry and the quality side behind these products and how Canopy Growth ensures that these products are safe when getting to consumers. We also talk about her mentors, the challenges she's faced when trying to find a job, her love of auditing, and how great the people in the cannabis space are. Aylene is such a warm person that has shown me that even if you don't know what you want to do out of high school or even college, that's okay. If you keep showing up, connect with people, stay positive, and most of all, have confidence in yourself, things will eventually fall into place. This conversation has really shown me that the cannabis sector is an exciting place to work, and maybe students interested in a career in the food and beverage industries should also consider a job in the cannabis sector as well. There's a lot to be learned, and I think that we're just going to see even more from this industry that will be exciting stuff. So, on to the show. Hi, Aylene. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is pretty fun. You're going to be my first guest that does the role in the cannabis industry, and I've heard good things about you, so I think this is going to be a fun chat.
Well, I'm glad.
Can you tell me more about Canopy Growth Corporation and the role that you have there?
So I started working at Canopy about 2 years ago. August was my 2-year anniversary. I started as a QC technician in Niagara-on-the-Lake at Tweed Farms. And then I wanted to venture out a little. And then I moved to BC. And I worked at one of the sites there in Delta. And then as a business decision, they ended up shutting down both sites in Delta and Aldergrove. And then I got a call from the vice president of Canada Operations, and he asked me if I wanted to move to Smith Falls, which is where the main site is. It used to be the old Hershey building. Going from a QC tech, you're in quality, you do everything quality related, but then this position was actually a QA/RA liaison. And with this position, you're actually working under operations. So what I do is I try to help operations elevate because it's a new industry and everyone is learning. We do everything. It's actually like one of the coolest positions I've ever been in early in my career. So we do beverages, we do CBD beverages, we do dried flower, we have oil, we have soft gel capsules, we do chocolate. We're coming out with gummies soon. We have vapes, which is pretty cool as well. It's a very large spectrum.
Oh, and for you to be diving into something like that's pretty impressive to build out that many different brands of products within 2 years. Like some companies take they can market it and create a whole project of one product and it takes 2-3 years just to do that alone. So wow, that's kind of crazy.
I know, and everything happens so quickly because with legalization, and then it's only been a few years that we've really been into everything else beside dried flower and oil really, because with medicinal, they don't really do much edibles or chocolates yet. It's still really new. So it's all recreational products, which we have for our beverages and everything.
Right. And I know with Canada, I can't see for the rest of the country. I just know with Ontario, did it not take a year after even the legalization of the weed? I don't know, the dried flower, I should say. The dried flower, it took over a year, I think, to even just get the edible products as well.
Yeah, we still haven't. So we're launching our gummies in the next few months, I believe. It really all depends on production. But yeah, it's been taking a decent amount of time, but I would say that we've made a lot of headway and lead, and I think we are one of the leading companies right now with all of the products that we have out.
I'm curious about how the two things, because you said you first did QC and then now you're saying that you work as a QA RA liaison. What kind of testing would you do in QC and how has that changed to what you do now?
Yeah, so I started as a QC tech, and in the QC role is more of the quality aspect of making sure that the product was safe, like microbial testing, making sure that your lot releases have been completed properly, making sure you're following regulations, everything of that sort. And then now that I've moved into operations, of course, I still make sure we're following regulations, but it's more working with operation managers, trying to elevate them. So working on our standard operating procedures, our work instructions, helping with the quality management system and making sure everyone understands what their role is and how they can make things work more efficiently. So a lot of trying to help operations because it is a new industry and I know a lot of people are experts, but it's really hard with a new industry to be an expert. So trying to put our brains together and figure out what works best.
So it sounds like in your role, you do heavily work with operations. So there's a lot of, the departments are very intertwined.
Yeah, definitely. It's sometimes hard trying to communicate to operations from a quality standpoint on what you're looking for. So I find the liaison part really comes out with my team. So I think we do a really good job at helping operations understand the quality aspect.
And just to add on more to just understanding quality, because I know we say microbial and such, but because I'm not too familiar with the product, what would be something when something's going wrong? What's something that is not up to quality? What would be an example of that?
And anytime that we get micro tests there's a lot of different quality teams within the company. So we have the lab techs. So they're the ones who do all the microbial testing and they test for heavy metals, they test for pesticide residue, they test for everything that you can think of. And then there's like our quality lot release team who does all of the review of all the documents. And there's our quality production team, which go onto the floor and they do all like our ATP testing to make sure everything's good to run before a production. And then there's also the quality control technicians. Yeah, there's a lot of quality aspects that go on in the cannabis industry, at least that I'm seeing so far. But a lot of testing involves like the THC, the CBD testing to make sure that we're in compliance with all the regulations, because on packaging, you have to be very accurate with what your THC and CBD content is and how many grams that you're putting in each package as well. So it's a lot in the regulations as well.
That makes sense. And it's a highly, not that food isn't, but this industry I know is very highly regulated. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have as much experience in the food industry because I just graduated not too long ago. But working with SGS before, I did get a really good understanding on all of the different regulations that the CFIA covers. But I would say that the cannabis industry is very strict, especially because it's new. And it's harder to have a better understanding of what type of regulation should be implemented.
And that segues into a good way for me to ask, what quality systems are there in place in the cannabis space? Is it ISO, is it SQF, or is it its own separate entity?
It's its own separate entity, kind of, in a way. I think there's still a lot more progress the industry itself needs to make. Right now, we're following GPP. That's kind of like the basis of what most LPs need to follow. So it's a good production practices, and it's a standard that the Canadian, Health Canada put out for all LPs. So again, the requirements include like testing for micro contamination, any chemical contaminants like heavy metals, like I stated before. And you just need to make sure that you have your quality standards in place for each manufacturing process. And that kind of ties into the GMP guidelines as well, because in order to have medicinal, or if you want to ship, like let's say to Germany, you need to have good manufacturing procedures in place. So they kind of tie one on one, and they're both similar because you need your operating procedures, your sanitation programs, you need a system in place to track all of your product in case you need to do a recall. And yeah, so the GMP part takes it to the next level.
Okay. And sorry, you just said the term. I caught what GPP is, but I think you said LP as well. Sorry, what's that?
Like they're licensed producers.
Oh, okay. That's a new term for me. Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. No, that's interesting. It doesn't surprise me, but I still didn't I don't know.
Yeah, no, I freely say all these terms, not really thinking about it, but I am very happy to understand and have a good grasp of what's happening in the cannabis industry.
Yeah. I know, because although we do go to school and we do take these courses and we read our books, sometimes it's not until you actually go into the workplace that they more so become second language and you realize the importance of them. And like, they're not just words on paper, but the terms are something that means something.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing actually, the amount that I've actually learned after being in school as well. I thoroughly did enjoy my program and I did benefit and learn a lot from it. But now being in the industry, I'm like, wow, this is a whole new world.
Because if I'm not mistaken, you went to Niagara College. Because it wasn't being taught, if I'm not mistaken, the about cannabis, how are you actually learning about something in such a new industry?
I would have to say my bosses.
Okay.
I've been really lucky, and starting at Tweed Farms in Niagara on the Lake, my first boss, she was the strongest. I don't even know. She was amazing. The amount that she taught me it was mind blowing as well. Like she didn't micromanage. She trusted you to do what you needed to do. She gave you the resources, and she was always there if you needed her. And I think I've been really lucky in that sense because when I moved to BC as well, I had a very strong woman boss as well again. And now that I've moved to Smith Falls, yet again, I'm very like another strong woman is my leader. Like, I think learning in the industry is really important, and keeping yourself up to date with the regulations and just constantly reading is really important, I think, in the cannabis industry because everything's changing.
It makes such a difference when you're first out of school, even at any stage of your development, but especially when you're first out of school and you have a good boss or supervisor, someone who can really help you grow as a person because they see something in you. You can't ask for a better situation for yourself.
Yeah, it was funny. My interview was about 5 minutes long, and I was like, oh no, like I tanked it. She hated me. And then like a day later I got a call and I was like, oh, I got the job. So she told me after that she did see something in me and she was really excited for me to be in the position. And I'm just so happy that she took a chance on me, because if she didn't, then well, who else would have?
I guess it comes from years of experience, whoever's being a boss. I don't, when they do interviews and, picking out someone from like a 20-minute conversation, I don't know how they do it, to be honest with you. And I know when people say they see something in you, but you're like, how do you see something in me within 5 minutes? Like, I don't know.
I was pretty happy.
I'm happy to hear that. So I guess we'll transition back to what you're doing now. And I know that you've talked a little bit about what you do in your day, but could you give more of a breakdown on like what your day-to-day would look like?
Yeah, so lately actually I've been extremely busy with different meetings on cross-functional teams. So a big part of GMP is you have to have your processes, your equipment, and everything needs to be validated. So this is something that we're really diving into. So I get to work with all teams. So I get to work with vapes on different validation studies. I get to work with the NCAP team on different, if they have any CAPAs. So like, are you familiar with like the terminology in the quality system? I just want to make sure I'm not throwing out any random terms here.
I'm actually not too familiar, and I'm assuming as well many of our listeners wouldn't be as well. So I think it would be great to maybe explain them a little more.
Yeah, for sure. So I work on the CAPAs, which is our corrective actions and preventative controls. So if we have, let's say, an issue, then I have to make sure that the corrective action is in place and then that we verify it in a timely manner. I work on the nonconformities every day that we may have if they occur in the workplace, updating our standard operating procedures and making sure that our work instructions adhere to our SOPs. We are developing new HACCP plans, so that's something that's happening in the cannabis industry. We're seeing a lot with the beverages and your vapes and any product that will go besides inhalation, it needs to have something higher than just your standard operating procedure in place. You need to have your preventative control measures in place. You need to have your hazards listed. So a lot to do with the quality management system I've been working on. And yeah, just elevating operations and making sure that we're complying to the regulations on a daily basis.
Cool. I mean, that definitely shows that in your position, you have a very good understanding, it sounds like, of, even though you're still learning, that you have a good understanding of what's going on in the plant, because I would assume that as you're learning you're actually creating these HACCP plans and making these SOPs and such, you're going down into the plant, looking around, checking, watching, so you're kind of like in the office, but then you're also out in the plant.
Yeah, and I think that's what I really love about this position is I get hands on everything. So I always know what's happening. So if I need to help in the beverage facility, I get to go over there and I get to learn even more, which I love learning every day. And then I really get to dive into if we're having any issues or if we need assistance doing something. So I really feel like we're making a difference with my role. And operations, like the ops managers and everyone on the floor, they always really appreciate our help, I feel. So I think that's another thing that I love about the cannabis industry is everyone is really amazing and supportive and appreciative, I think. So it's always a bonus.
No, that's really cool. I don't know why I know with the food industry, people love it because it's such a collaborative industry, even if you're in different companies. So I don't know why I'm surprised to hear about cannabis, because I know that the industry like popped up so fast, and where I know it's no reflection of the places that grow them, but I go to school at Ryerson University, so Yonge Street has like 5 stores that sell these types of products, and I'm like, well, how much competition could you have on one street? So I guess I just assumed the same thing would be happening within the plants as well.
Yeah, it is very stressful, don't get me wrong, but the support of your coworkers and everyone, it just makes it a better place to work. And I think Canopy Growth has a really good culture as well. We have a new CEO, David Klein. Well, I guess he's a year now almost. And I think he's been really making a difference because he sends us emails all the time. Not that most bosses don't, but he really seems to care about the industry and the company itself, and he really wants us to strive. So I think there's been like a bit of a turn in that as well with Canopy. And now we're a real corporation. Not that we weren't before, but I feel like we really are making a difference because sometimes with the medical as well, we get to see what kind of patients we're helping anonymously, and we get to see the types of differences that some people are seeing with like oils and soft gels. Just, I don't know, I feel really happy in the cannabis industry as well. So
That's really cool. And I guess I know you don't have a name to them, but with the cannabis space, what type of like patients would you actually be helping though?
So some people with autoimmune diseases like MS, let's say, I do know that it has helped a lot with inflammatory issues that they may be having. I know it's helped with seizures, but those are the only 2 that I know because we don't get to see specifically what issues they are, but those are ones that I'm related to that I know that have helped people, those 2 issues. So just knowing that it helps people that I know even, it makes a difference in going into work.
Yeah, no, to have a work with a purpose that's even higher than yourself. I think that's the key to having a long, successful career, because you want to keep going because you feel like you're doing good for others. So that's cool. I know that you already just said that some of the things you love is like the company culture that you have there, as well as the people that you're working with and some of the other patients or what your products are doing to help individuals. But are there some other things that you also love about your job?
I do love, as we know, I love learning more and more every day. And I just feel like with the industry, everything changing, you have to keep up with it. And I like the rush of having to go into work and be like, okay, what's changed? What's new? What am I going to learn today? So I think the learning, the people, and just helping everything is my favorite parts about going into work.
I might have to start considering maybe going into this industry, because I know that for me, like I need a job that's like mentally stimulates me. Like I love learning, and I don't know if I could go for a career that's more on the physical side. Not that hands-on ones you can't learn with those, but like I just love learning. So it sounds like you have a job that seems to give you, what's the word I'm trying to look for? You have a job that like hits all the boxes that makes you want to keep going to work.
Yeah, and I find that this job has given me confidence as well in myself. And just because you have to do training events, and you have to speak to people. And I just find that recently I've really come out of my bubble a lot in that sense, because I was pretty shy before. So I think that this has helped a lot with that as well. So.
Well, that's great. Confidence is something that people need to build. And of course, it's as you being a liaison, like that's working with people. So you gotta, if people want to take you seriously as well, you kind of have to be confident in yourself or they won't listen.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to go back a little bit more. So back to you and how you went from school to your first jobs and such. And I wanted to know, how was the transition between going to college and your full-time career? Do you think that there was anything that you found that helped you be successful in even getting the job? And how was that for you?
I had a few struggles from being after school into getting a full-time position. The summer after I graduated, I actually just kept serving for the summer because it's hard out there. It's hard to get a position. The first job that I applied for was actually a junior QC tech, and I didn't end up getting the job because someone with 5 years experience got the job. So I started to question the whole, what's the purpose of a junior position if 0 to 1 year experience, if I can't get that position? So then I really started doubting myself. But then I got right back up, and my mom told me, like, keep applying, like, you'll get a job somewhere. And then I ended up connecting with Victor again, and I was very persistent and annoying, as he would say. And I sent him emails all the time asking if he had anything available, because I've always wanted to work in the auditing industry because I think it's fascinating. What better to do than audit? And he ended up having a position, so I became an independent internal auditor for SGS. Pardon me, not internal, external auditor. And I started doing audits with Victor. He is one of my mentors. And then another position opened up within SGS, and I ended up taking that position for a year. And I learned a lot there as well. I would take every training event that I possibly could just to continuously learn. And then the job ended up being in Mississauga, and I was living in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Oh my gosh.
The commute really got to me. It was an hour and a half there and 3 hours back home with traffic. So then I just started applying to more positions in the Niagara region, and I ended up getting the job in Niagara-on-the-Lake as a QC tech. So I did find it really hard to transition from going to school and studying to actually having to go to work. But overall, I managed, and if I can do it, anyone can do it. But it really is a good transition, because you go from having to study and hand in assignments to going into something that you love. So I loved internal auditing. I loved working with different regulations and standards, and now I love the cannabis industry. So I really think you just have to follow your passion and find what works for you.
I'm impressed. That's first of all, the tenacity to even just commute. Even though it's going against the grain of traffic, going from Mississauga to Niagara-on-the-Lake, the winter times, I don't know how you managed.
It was terrifying. The roads do not pave, or they do not plow those properly.
No, they don't, especially when you get closer to, I was supposed to do an event one time at Niagara College, and I was like, they had big snowstorm in the forecast. I was like, nope, I'm not coming. I want to come, but I'm not coming.
There was times that I would leave my house and my car would start slipping, and I'd just turn around and be like, nope, working from home today.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm moving away from the point. But I know that we actually talked about Victor prior to when we sat down and started recording. I just wanted to know more about what SGS is. And you were mentioning about Victor. I'm kind of for those who might not know, could you just maybe elaborate on those two things?
Yeah, for sure. So Victor is, in my mind, the most brilliant man known to earth. He actually came to Niagara College. It was my third year, I believe. And he taught 2 courses. One was internal auditing, and the other one was hazard analysis, I believe. And it was during March break, and they were both the most amazing courses that I've ever experienced, because the way he teaches and the way he helps you learn is really, it's something else. He explains things with purpose. And so after that, that's when I started bugging him for a job. And ever since he came to the college, he's been my mentor. He worked for SGS, and that's where he came in. So SGS came to Niagara College, and they taught us the courses. And since then, since I started working at SGS a few years ago, I took a bunch of courses that he provided. they were what really inspired me into wanting to audit and wanting to really analyze and root cause analysis. So that's where Victor came into play.
I've spoken to Victor in the past, and he's actually written a few blog posts on the Food Grads website. But actually, if people are interested, the episode that'll be coming out before this one will be my episode where I interviewed Victor. So if I guess people want to have a better understanding about what Victor does, that would be the episode to check out. But with Victor and SGS, he has this way of going about like food safety in this totally different way than people would be accustomed to. And he really passionate. I can tell why you would pick him as a mentor, because you can tell he's very passionate about teaching the new generation, not just to be a mentor, but for the sake that he wants a better food safety system. So
yeah, his programs are really amazing. He has the risk optimization program as well that he's rolling out, and it's amazing. And I've done a lot of courses with him. He taught the GMP Plus training. He taught FSSC training to me, ISO training, all of the HACCP implementation for cannabis I learned from him. He overall, the way he teaches and the way he wants the future to be shaped it's really quite amazing.
Yeah. So you said that you after were working as an external auditor. What does that mean?
It was pretty much an independent contract with SGS, and I would go to certain facilities and I would audit to make sure that they were in compliance with the CFI regulations and standards set in place. We would prepare the report, and I'd prepare all of my findings, if there's any minor findings or major findings, and then I would send out all my observations and nonconformances to the facility. I would give them a certain amount of time, just like any audit, to respond to the findings. And then once they were complete, I would go back and follow up with them and see if they needed any more help with putting any sanitation programs in place or any type of standard operating procedures that they needed.
Wow, that's a pretty big thing to be doing right out of school. Like, that's pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. Being an auditor, like being able to have an eye for detail like that, I'm pretty impressed.
I loved it. It's one of my passions. I love auditing, and I do hope one day I get back into it. And I'm sure I will. And even with Canopy right now, we do internal audits as well. So I love being a part of those. So I still get to audit sometimes.
That's great. No, I mean, for food companies, even if, although they do the external auditing procedure in order to be certified via like SQF, ISO, and all those things, you first monthly, at the very least, have to do an internal audit. So at least you're still putting those good skills to use. And I'm happy that you're enjoying it, because it's hard. It's not, you have to have the right eye to do something like that. And sometimes the findings aren't what you want them to be. I mean, that's kind of the point of them, and trying to take it to the next step to actually solve that problem. I think that's the difficult part more so.
And I think that's what I also love about my position right now, is that we also do audits, not from a quality standpoint. So we do operational audits. So they are quality, yes, but we work, not saying quality works without ops, but we actually get to develop the corrections for the audit findings that we find as well. So I get to be on both sides. I get to see what maybe the issues are, but then I also get to help operations correct the issues, which I don't know. I'm weird. I love it all.
No, it's cool. You're solving a problem and you are working with others. Like, there's so many skill sets that you're using within it. And to actually see something that maybe you spotted, you've now worked together with your team to try to find the best solution. And then at the end of the day, that problem is now solved. Like, I don't know why. That's not like weird. That's like cool. Okay. So
just nerding out over here. I do. I'm not surprised at how far I've come in the industry, because I knew I had it in me all the time, because always have to be confident in yourself. But just how much the industry has grown and how I ended up in the cannabis industry. I just remember in second year speaking with some of our profs, and they're like, oh, who do you think's going to end up in the cannabis industry? Because it wasn't talked about much. And I was like, oh, I'll never be in the cannabis industry. I'll always be in the food industry. And now here I am in the cannabis industry.
So I guess it's because of your career kind of path on how you ended up in the cannabis industry, because for many it is still a very taboo subject. Even though I know it's legalized in Canada, it's still very taboo. So it's cool that you can own it. be confident about it.
And my mom always told me, again, my mom, she's one of my role models as well. She always told me, just go for it. Like, believe in yourself and you can do it. So I think with all the very strong females in my life, I've just always believed in myself, and I know I can do it.
So with that type of attitude, I know that that's something that seems like a mantra to kind of get you through it, but would you be able to talk about any specific challenges that you faced early on in your career besides having difficulties finding a position? Were there any challenges that you faced and you were able to overcome?
So in high school, I didn't think I strived there. I always thought of myself as not the smartest. And I didn't enjoy it. I didn't do well. My grades weren't good at all, really. And then I went to the the college fair, and I met Amy Prue, who was the coordinator for our program. And she told me, just apply. She's like, apply yourself. You can write an essay and we'll see if you get in. So I was like, okay, sure. So I think after meeting Amy and not believing in myself for the longest time, but I was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. So with food science, it's just everything that I wanted to do, because I had no idea what I wanted to do outside of high school. I applied for like plumbing. I applied to be an electrician. I applied to be, I think, a pharmacy assistant. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But then I just decided how much I love food and science, and I didn't even know that this program existed. So I think before I even got to college, or even before I even got to my career, I was really struggling. But then it's the program that I chose that really elevated me as a person, the people that I met throughout the program, and my career now. Yeah, no, I don't really know what I would have done if I didn't go to this program. So I did struggle a lot before.
Well, it sounds like you had every step of the way you've had the right people, and I'm not surprised to hear that Amy is one of those people, because Amy, like Nicole, is one of those people that I hear everyone talks about positively, and she's just that network connection, that person that just gives you so much encouragement, not only just like from a motivational standpoint, but she just gets you excited about food. So I can see why even just that one conversation at your career fair was the thing that just like got you going.
It's what got me. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but just one conversation. She asked me if I like food. I was like, of course. She's like, do you like science? I was like, yeah, of course. She's like, okay, then apply for this program. I was like, wow, it's that easy. Mm-hmm. So I think just talking to people is what everyone should do. It's the people who you meet and you connect with, and they really help elevate you as a person.
I think so. And even though sometimes when you're in high school and when you're in college, you're like, well, I don't have time to go to the college fair. I don't have time to go to the career fair or that one little networking event. It's only an hour. Why am I going to go? I think that those things sometimes are the most valuable experiences you can get, because you don't know where one conversation can lead you. Yeah, I agree with you. You just have to talk. You have to talk to people. And that's why I think it's so important to get involved in organizations as well. But I digress.
100%. I also, if you sign up for the IFT, the Institute of Food Technology, it's an amazing place with so many different articles and amazing people to aspire to not necessarily be, but like role models that you can have as well. And there's just so much opportunity for learning and different type of people you can meet, and always connect with everybody you can. I think that's how I got so far in the industry, is I tried to connect with as many people as I could.
So when you say that you tried to connect with people, how were you actually finding these people or reaching out?
I would go to different job fairs, or when COVID wasn't a thing, of course.
Okay.
And just every type of food industry or cannabis industry type of event that was going on, I would try to get, you can win free tickets everywhere. So I would try to win tickets, and if I got them, then I would go. And you'd stop at each vendor and you talk to people and you understand what their business is. And then you get their business card, and then you can link with them on LinkedIn, or you can email them and have a conversation. That's what I'm a big believer in, is talking to people.
It's sound advice. I mean, I know that I got involved with Food Grads because I was in a non-food program, even though Ryerson has a food and nutrition program. Actually, now that I think about it, I try to sometimes pay attention. That's another thing I could give advice is, although you were in a specific food science program, if you're not directly in one, check other department like events that aren't your department, because I was in the science department, but we had like food science department at Ryerson, and I would like check their calendars on their own departmental website to see what networking events they were, and like that's how I started to meet people. So now that I'm just thinking about it, that's probably a good suggestion as well for others.
Yeah, no, 100%. Even at Niagara as well, you connect with all the different professors as well, and they're all have different stories, and they're all very knowledgeable in what they're talking about. So yeah, it's very good advice.
Sorry, I'm just like thinking, because the more I talk to people through the podcast, the more I start to actually remember stuff I've done through my journey, because you don't remember till you talk to people. So
exactly, yeah. That's why I think these podcasts are really important, because even listening, I think there's 6 of them so far online.
There'll be 7 next week, and this will be the 8th one.
Yeah, no, I always look forward to it, because even just listening to other people talk and their experiences, I find it really motivates you to be better as well.
Totally agree. And even though the podcast space, like there's so many conversations out there, sometimes you're like, oh, it's so saturated, but then you're like, no, I need this. I like, which one do I choose? There's so many good ones.
Exactly. I try to listen to so many on my way to work, but it's just, there's too many.
Well, I actually think that's like the perfect segue point for me to ask you, do you have any food? I know I'm saying about food, but I know you're in the cannabis space, but do you have any podcasts or books or people that's related to what you do that you think that students should check out?
I think it was Green Biz. There was one on, it's not about cannabis necessarily, but it's on food supply chain, cities, climate change. That's a really good one. But for the cannabis industry, I actually haven't listened to any yet. I think it's because every day I go into work and I deal with the cannabis industry, so I try to listen to other ones. But no, just all of the food ones. If you just go into Spotify and I type in food, I listen to as many as I can.
Okay. So then do you just have any other recommendations about things you enjoyed? Doesn't have to be food related. Is there anything that I should be listening to?
There was one I listened to the other day. I think it was called Farming Today.
Okay, never heard of it.
I believe. Yeah, it's about sustainability. It's all about the farming industry. I grew up on a farm as a kid, so I do love listening to all of the different things that are happening in the farm world. But yeah, no, my commute's pretty short, so I don't get to listen to as many as I'd hope to. But the ones that I do listen to are really good. I mainly listen to this one right now.
Okay, so I'll make sure to check that out and share it in the show notes. I mean, it's always good as well, even if you're not I know the reason you're saying it's because you grew up on one, but I think that if you want to be a part of the food in these industries, it's probably good to have an idea what's going on in the farm, because it directly affects your food supply chain. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy what's happening out there.
So I know that we kind of touched upon it already, but I wanted to just know, why is the cannabis industry a great place to work?
I think it's the people. It's a very odd place to be, but everyone really cares about what they're doing. And everyone wants to help you, and everyone wants to help learn, and it's just continuous improvement as a company. So if I had to pick one thing, I think it would be the people I work with and my coworkers and everyone that I've met on the way. Because I can say the people that I've met throughout my 2 years at Canopy are some of my best friends today. So I really do think it's the people that make it great. And the product, of course, but...
Well, you can't have a good product unless you have good people. So I'm really happy to hear that that's your reasoning, because, yeah, these are the people you spend most of your time with in a day. So I would hope you would like them.
Yeah, and my team has really turned into my family, and it's very, very soft and squishy of me to say, but it's a great place to be, especially Canopy.
Well, I think that people will start to be looking into them now that they have an inside voice saying about why they enjoy working there.
Well, I hope so.
Again, we've already kind of touched upon this, but I just wanted to hear directly, what advice would you give to someone wanting to pursue a similar career to what you have now?
Well, everyone's journey is different. So I don't have exact advice for everyone, but I would say that just be confident in yourself and really believe in yourself and push yourself to the next level and apply to that job even if you don't think that you're qualified, because who knows, you might get it and someone might take a chance on you like someone took a chance on me. So I think it's really important to always believe in yourself and just don't give up.
That's great advice. Keep trying. You never know. So I'm going to finish the podcast there, but the last question I just wanted to ask is, if people wanted to connect or find you, where can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always there. Send me a message.
I'll link it in the show notes so people will be able to find you quite easily. So thank you so much for being on the show, Aylene. It was a great conversation, and I really did learn a lot more about this industry and how great the people are. I knew nothing. This is a black box for me. So hearing about how much regulations are changing and how strong and this industry is growing, it seems like it's a really exciting space to be. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I love Food Grads and everything that it stands for. So I'm really honored to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 9 of the Food Grads podcast. All the notes for this podcast episode can be found on the Food Grads website by clicking the podcast tab on the homepage. There, you can find any notes for past or future episodes. If you enjoyed this episode, then consider leaving a review on wherever you get your podcast. There are so many of them out there, but it helps us to get the word out there, and we would really appreciate it. Next week on the podcast, I talked to Amelia Laplante, an R&D food scientist at Yoso, a family business creating plant-based, dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan yogurts and spreads. In this episode, Amelia shares with me what it's like creating plant-based products and her career journey full of strategic pivots. Amelia gives some great pieces of advice on how to network both as a student and as someone new to their jobs and careers. She shows us that not only these conversations can help you build better connections with your coworkers, but they can also give you a better understanding of the food supply chain as a whole. By understanding the food supply chain, it can actually better set you up for more careers and the next step in your career journey. So I really can't wait to share it with you. And as always, I'll see you next week. Bye!